When I'm traveling, things can go one of two ways. Either I have a schedule that's full of things to do, places to go, meetings to attend, conferences to speak at, or I have some time, some moments, some hours in between events. And if I'm in a city that I'm not normally in, one of the things I do is pull up Google Maps and try to find the arcades. Not because I want to go to a place somewhere I've never been and play the same old machines. No, I am looking to experience a place through the lens of how it builds and puts together its arcades. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It, a podcast about technology, history, and getting myself out of debt. Thanks to Jeff Atwood and the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. I've been very lucky. I've been able to travel to countries I've never been to before and spend days walking around, often as the guest of another group who want me to speak and be a part of things there. And so, during those times I have to myself, I pull up Google Maps, and then I find out that there's an arcade or a game-playing place somewhere nearby, although not always nearby. If it's not nearby, I use that marker as a destination for walking around the city, for experiencing it, and knowing that at the end I will end up at some sort of location that has a computer or arcade or, more often than not, space or technology name. And I will be able to know that I can then turn around and go back a different way. In this way, I'm almost rolling the dice to see what a city is like. And of course, sometimes I never get to those places. Sometimes, as I go along, there's a beautiful location to explore or a museum that's open, a library that looks like something from the distant past that I can take a tour of. It's not always important to make it to this destination, although it's always nice if I can do both. Experiencing a city without any direct guidance, without a tour or a tour guide, is a very random way to enjoy it. You might miss some of the most common reasons people go to that city. On the other hand, you may go down streets or places that aren't on any guides, aren't listed as must-see. And as time has gone on, I've been enjoying those more and more, seeing how people just live, seeing how they put together their streets and stores and places of gathering such that I can connect to it, compare it to how I live, find common ground, and find uncommon surprises. But usually, after a pleasant walk of a few minutes or a few hours, I will find myself at the arcade. Different places have different concepts of what an arcade is. I have found standard issue arcades, literally a room, usually on the first floor, with a handful of machines, many of them ones I've seen before, Sega and Konami, and much rarer Atari or Nintendo, and then find they're arranged in a certain way with a bored person behind a desk, and I might walk in, or I might just look at the outside, take a picture, get the point. Other times, I find that what they are is not so much an arcade, but a gathering place of gaming or technology, a combination comic book store, vintage technology, and semi-museum, where they've taken a bunch of old microcomputers and put them in the window so that you can get a feel for a time gone within the viewpoint of this city. Sometimes I've almost missed the place. It's so small. It's just a little hole in the wall, maybe even on the second or third floor. Somebody's personal business of providing access to old programs and games in their language, in their place. In those cases, I sometimes talk to the proprietors. They seem like interesting people who are trying to put together a business, and if I can, I'll buy something, a token, a appreciation that they're out there. What fascinates me over and over with these places is how they are built around a mythology of these machines, these pieces of equipment that are more than just manufactured utilities, more than appliances, almost temples, almost small shrines of something that takes us away from ourselves. Like in so many other cases, there's a sliding scale. Sometimes people have an incredible little self-contained space. In a place like Tokyo, you can find a number of retro arcades that are absolutely packed to the gills with all sorts of vintage things and a decoration style for different floors. But other times, often in Europe, I find a place out of time and out of belonging. They are their own things. They are spaceships. They are cubes of difference living among hundreds of year-old buildings, or a pub, or homes that look like they've been there for hundreds of years sit next to this glowing environment of a different point of view. Knowing what I know about how arcades went through different phases of acceptance in America, I can only imagine the fights that led to some of these places, how they were not welcomed, how they had to make their pitch to allow them to stay open, and what they have to do to continue, to be able to make the rent, to not be a nuisance to the neighborhood, to just exist willingly in this world. The continued way that this has been rewarding for me to land somewhere and take in not just what the city officially has to offer, but to find tucked away these games that I no longer really play to any amount, holding their own, a fort, an outpost of the past, of the electronic games world. Well, it gives me both hope and it opens my mind. People out there, people who were affected by these universal ideas of games in the same way I was, turned around at some point in their lives and made it their world. They made it the place where they would stand in their city, and they would be the ambassador of these creations for as long as they could. Looking at it that way, how could I not visit? How could I not stop by? How could I not make the multiple-hour walk through all of a city's history to pay my respects to the phase of time that affected me most of all? This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It. Thanks to James Bekoyanu, Ernie Hershey, Michael Rubin, Dilip Reddy, Sean Kelly, Trixie the Cat, Martin, Symbionts, Benjamin Guts, Joey Mink, David Fisher, and Anonymous, along with the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. I will address this just in this episode. I started to feel bad about a month ago, and it really got to a point where I simply couldn't speak without coughing. It then proceeded to be like that for a month, an absolute month, where multiple times a day I found myself coughing so badly, wondering if the coughing would ever stop. And slowly, much, much slower than I would have ever expected. I found myself healing. But I'm not fully healthy. It is actually not painful. I have the energy, I have the will. It's just taking me longer and longer to get back to health. Whether this is a harbinger of days to come, years to come, that it'll take me much, much longer to get back to where I was, or it's just an unusually harsh set of symptoms that I got, it just reminds me to take nothing for granted, to focus every day you can, and to never assume that life will hand you what it's been handing to you with absolute joy and luck and wonder up to this point.